Hello there, fighters in the frost. This is the Raphaelin, and today I want to follow up on our analysis of the Winter's Claw. Now, you may have noticed that I changed my avatar, and this is because I thought the previous one looked way too tired for someone rambling over artwork, so I just thought to myself, I'm gonna draw a better one. And I did. And thankfully, there were free PNG tuber software like Riot to help me make this thing wobble. Anyway, back to our subject. In the last video, we went through the lore of the tribe and the various depictions of its current leader, Sejuani. If you have forgotten, the Winter's Claw were an extremely conservative and survivalist tribe living in the frozen land of the Freljord that glorify brutality and battle damage. I checked the official Runeterra map website, which honestly needs desperate updates. It hasn't changed since 2019, and if I recall correctly, the original guy working on it has left Riot Games. Riot, being perfect at lore consistency and archiving, apparently decided to abandon the project altogether. Though they may be planning to make a new one entirely, who knows? Anyway, I learned that the village we saw the Winter's Claw settle in during the comic is called Yadulsk, and the one in which they attacked the Erbatal tribe is called Kuchar. I couldn't find any name for the place we last saw them in the Call 2022 cinematic, but I did find a curious hypothesis when discussing it with people on TB Skyam's Discord. So, if you remember, Sejuani and Co. are currently traversing the Ursine land, searching for the Cauldron of Orn, that supposedly fills you up for weeks if you eat just one spoon from it. We only know of this one cauldron that Orn made, and that was during the events of the Song of Nunu game. Problem is, Orn specified that there is nothing magical about that cauldron. Thus, if this is the same cauldron that the Winter's Claw are chasing after, there may be a non-zero chance that they are challenging Volhir himself over something mundane that might just happen to be inside his domain. I say this because back in Song of Nunu, we find Volibear inside the Winged Mountain, and if I recall, it was around that same general area that we acquired the cauldron, and have dinner with it once before it never gets mentioned again. See, I don't want the Winter's Claw to die of starvation and or get mauled by the Ursine, but they aren't exactly nice people either. There is a chance that the old man that told Sejuani the Cauldron rumor was intentionally leading them astray as revenge for Sejuani burning down his village. Hopefully one day Riot will pick up on any of the plethora of storylines they leave open and give the lore nerds something to chew on. Okay, I think I have beat around the brush long enough. Let's get to the actual subjects of this video. This is the Unscarred Reaver, a teenager slash young adult girl hellbent on proving herself to the tribe. The flavor text of her card reads, Avarosans nurture their young to grow old, soft, and unprepared for the heat of battle. Ours are born in the fires of war itself. A quote attributed to Skarmadar Vrunna, who we will get to eventually. Now, here is a perfect example of where and when noodle arms make sense. This girl is a teenager, a young adult at best, and it is pretty obvious, to me at least, that she has no idea how to fight with this giant club. In fact, she has a voice line saying, "You'll regret when I lift this," meaning that she can't. Her facial expression, let's zoom a bit, Her facial expression shows not only that she is frustrated by not being able to wield the club, but also that she is genuinely afraid for her life. Surrounded by at least two Druvast Boar Riders, which are also called Scar Maidens, I believe, an archer, and the guy with the club. Let's analyze her design. First off, she spent time braiding her hair and wearing decorations like the armband, the antler circlet, the bone earring. To me, this shows that as much as she thinks she wants to be a Scar Maiden, she's just a young girl who is naturally worried about her looks and how she appears to other people and stuff. Her skin is pristine, which is the entire point of this splash. She is the unscarred Weaver, and in a culture that glorifies scarring and battle damage, that's a bad thing, at least in the eyes of herself and her tribe. Now, look at the clothes. I think we can excuse her freezing to death in that much snow, because, as I said before, the Winter's Claw are poor as f***. They're overpopulated and undersupplied. She's wearing rags. Her cloak is in shambles, her tunic is all caught and sewn in a very ragged manner, and there are straps all over her. Just look. Do you know what this means? This means that she had to force those boots and gloves to stop falling off of her because the tribe can't afford making clothes specifically her size. And we will see this continuously throughout the Winter's Claw designs. Moving to composition and lighting, the girl is the largest object in the entire illustration. She has the spotlight. Everyone is blurred to death by motion blur and snow and shit. And one thing that might just be my idea is that the sun's shining at this exact angle here, like from northeast, paired with the angle of the girl's pose, it all means very obviously that she is trying to go for a big sweep, which will probably miss anyway because no one seems to be here in the part of her swing, you know? Okay, I think this is enough on this card. Let's move on to the next one. The flavor text for the Ruthless Raider reads, "The Winter's Claw has no equal in the Freljord, and all know the ferocity of these merciless raiders. Once their bloodlust takes over, one can only pray for a quick death." Obviously, the artwork is all about depicting exactly that. Let's take a look at the background first. So, smoke and splinters everywhere. Buildings on fire and shit. It's playing very heavily into the Vikings, the raiders who stole your shit, then burned your home so you can't rally and counterattack, which the Winter's Claw heavily leans into. Moving to the raider herself, we actually have her name. Yup, I know, it's a rare thing. Her name is Ira, and Sejuani calls it out when she's summoned in the game. So, what are the most obvious things about Ira here? Well, she's hot, angry, and wields gigantic war pick. Then we realize she has ear piercings. See that? She also has side braids, trinkets on her hip. By the way, these discs are gonna come up a lot. We'll talk about them in detail. And tattoos splash war paint everywhere. I'm leaning more into the war paint because see here it's getting smudged at the sides. That's why I say it's war paint, not tattoo. Anyhow, these things show that Ira cares about her appearance. Perhaps not in the same girlish way as the unscarred Reaver, perhaps more focused on intimidation and looking badass, but it is there. We also see the plethora of straps and belts and, this thing we keep talking about. For, as we established, the Winter's Claw often cannot afford tailoring, and the nicer things are reserved for the most crucial people of the tribe, like the Var Mother and the Ice Runners and her inner circle and stuff. Ira also has at least one scar on her shoulder. Just one. And maybe another one here-ish on her back. I'm not sure about that one. Okay, let's address this skin showing before I make any key remarks. Obviously, one interpretation is that they are sexualizing her with that side boob and, the back and toned muscles and stuff, but still keeping her very lean compared to what is expected of someone adept at swinging that enormous thing. Have you seen female lumberjacks? They have some serious arms on them. Another interpretation is thinking back on the flavor text and the culture of Winter's Claw. Ira was raised to take pride in war, to lose herself in the heat of battle, and to embrace constantly getting new scars. Through that lens, it makes sense that she doesn't, quote-unquote, cower behind armor and layers like a pesky Avarosan. She applies war paint and leaves her skin bare to intimidate her enemies, to show that she is neither afraid of the biting cold nor the threat of injury. This brings us to my next point. Era may be ruthless, but she isn't reckless. She knows that wielding a sweeping weapon, especially one this big, forces her to spin, which exposes her back. Thus, she wears a shield on her back. The shield is both reinforced and decorated with a severed head of what is, I think, a Druvas boar, which I'm pretty sure she hunted herself, because she wouldn't have claimed it otherwise. She also wears a tiny cape/mantle thingy, which I assume is there to protect her back from both the leather imprint of the sash and the abrasion caused by the rough texture of the shield. I think it's a very well thought detail in general, and I really appreciate the artist doing it. Also, look at the gorgeous battle damage on this shield. Just look here. It's battered. It's beaten. I love this. Another neat little detail is the kneecaps. See here? See the knee pads? Yeah. So look at the pose she's taking in this artwork. Another place she has to constantly expose for her attacks are her legs, because she has to put them forward to get a big swing done. She's charging up an attack, which forces her to put a leg forward, which would be an opportunity for an opponent to attack. The arms are a dare, a taunt, because Ira is pretty sure she is fast enough and strong enough not to be hit there. Or if she is, she just gets a scar and boasts about it. However, she also knows exactly where she is vulnerable, and wears proper protection there, at least as much as she can afford. Lastly, let's talk about composition and lighting. Ira is occupying basically the entire frame, and she is looking directly at us. We are the poor who has to pray for a quick death after they had the luck to be attacked by the Winter's Claw. The flame lighting her from the back gives her a cruel and infernal aura. But to me personally, her eyes are sad, maybe? Like, she's absolutely prepared to kill you, don't get me wrong, but in her eyes I see a hint of sadness, as if she is silently saying, sorry buddy, either you survive or I do. I don't really have a choice. I can only think of one more thing to say, and that is Ira's Warpick having a pommel in the shape of a bident. Let's zoom here. And what this tells me is that this part isn't meant for aggression, because it's mostly blunt, as you see. This is probably used for parrying or counterweight for the giant head of this whole thing. Okay, I believe it's enough for Ira. Let's move on to the next. The Ember Maiden. Ah, yes.
The Ember Maiden.
If other Winter's Claw members do self-decoration as a coping mechanism to deal with their shit show of a life, the Ember Maiden does it professionally as a job. I look at this artwork, and I don't think her job is just setting buildings aflame with that spike club, but more importantly, look cool while doing it. To me, she's a showman, a performer. Her art just happens to be arson and murder. Yeah, just look at her body. Like, look at this. If everyone else in the Freljord chose skin because some guy at Riot thought,
well, sex sells.
this one isn't like that at all. Here, it reads very intentional, at least to me.
I see you ask why that is. I will answer, my child.
Uh, Here, it reads very intentional because... Let me read our flavor text for you first. They will till their fruitful fields. They will weekly sow their seeds. We will set most all aflame. Winter's Claw takes what it please. A Winter's Claw children's brand. See that? See how Winter's Claw propagate to their children that the only correct way to gain resources is to steal it from other people, then kill them and burn their homes. No wonder all the characters we see out of this tribe are so insanely fucked up. But then, that's the thing, this culture was most likely born of necessity, as I have said before. The Winter's Claw are always overpopulated. That probably leads to them developing a, well fuck it, I'ma just take food from those that have excess mindset that at this point in time forces them to keep such a lifestyle because they either don't know how to farm or simply do not have fertile land to farm. This pretty obviously references the IRL North Raiders. The quote-unquote savagery was also born of necessity. Scandinavia is a cold-ass place, and before the global warming, it was an even colder place. Before the invention of modern farming techniques, they simply had no sustainable source of food other than maybe fish that would go extinct if you had too many mouths to feed, in relation to the breeding rate of the fishes, of course. And that eventually made people resort to just taking shit from those that could farm and herd animals and such. So they traveled long distances by boat, attacked the settlement, took their shit, and then razed it to the ground so the targeted people couldn't muster an army and attack them back. Getting a bit off topic here, I'm sorry. What I want to say is that the Ember Maiden is one of the perfect examples of what Winter's Claw culture demands of a tribesperson. She is covered head to the motherfucking toe in war paint. And she boldly shows it off. There aren't exactly any complex patterns here, mostly waves and geometric shapes and lines barely forming the shape of flowers or stickmen or whatever, but they are paintings upon the canvas of her body. She is cockily moving away from a burning building. The shape of her lips tell me that she's whistling probably. And she's not looking at the burning house, nor acknowledging that her own hair is on fire, because cool people walk away from wrecking shit and don't look behind them. The style of her mohawk and braids also look very intentional to me. She wanted to look as like this as she murdered someone's entire family. Her belt and tunic have jagged spiral patterns, which is normally a sign of Orn, which is weird for Winter's Claw. But anyway, the clothes are tattered like most of the Winter's Claw. They can't afford all that jazz. My biggest criticism of this design would be that why the fuck does she have pristine skin? No, seriously. What the fuck, Riot? She has the skin of a professional model photoshopped after a photo shoot. You can't just make a fucking arsonist murderer belonging to a culture that glorifies battle damage that much and then give her this smooth, unblemished, perfect skin that's just barely smudged by Ashen's suit. Well, I guess you can. You've already done it, all the way back in April 28th, 2020, no less, but my point still stands. We know Riot can do it. They have more money than God, they have access to artists with insane skill, talent, and dedication, and they have already gone so fucking hard with this design. But when it comes to body type diversity and scars and blemishes and shit, they chicken out so many fucking times. Why, Riot? It's not like she has a fucking 3D model. She's a fucking JPEG for a card game. Okay, enough shouting. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I very much love the design of the Ember Maiden, and the more something gets close to perfection, the lower the bar comes for flaws to ruin a huge part of its perception. At least to me. Moving to light and composition, I already said how cool people don't look at shit they blew up, and that's the main point of the lighting in this scene. The composition, however, the Ember Maiden occupies roughly the same amount of space as the building she burned recently. One idea is that she's just a short-stacked fire goblin, which you can surmise by comparing her height to the rows of bricks over here. Even if each brick is like 20 centimeters tall, that's about 8 inches for you filthy Americans, she is roughly 6.5 bricks tall, which means she's a measly 130 centimeters. That's 4'3" for the filthy Americans. And even if I misjudge the ratio, she still wouldn't be tall, you know? Why did I even calculate this? Because I'm a weirdo who spends hours writing scripts for shit I can't even make money off of. Leave me alone. Fuck you. Anyway, another idea is that her craft is just as important as herself. The fire is as much a part of her self-expression as all the tattoos and all the war paint and burning mohawk and the cool dude walk and all that. Fire is a sign of passion, and the Ember Maiden is passionate. Even though her passion is pretty damaging to both property and people. In-game, she damages every unit. Friend, foe, herself, your health bar, enemy's health bar, it doesn't matter. She's here to burn shit and look cool while doing it. That's all I've got to say about this splash at the moment. Our next subject is Carthane Stefan, which I have quite some things to say about. Trust me on that. Thank you very much for watching. I have quite the dilemma on whether to keep these videos episodic or publish them in giant video essay rambling format. Please take a little time to comment me your preferred format, and wishlist a faction if you know any from Runeterra. Subscribe to this channel for more low quality audio swooning over splash art. Try to remain respectful to those you disagree with. Don't look down on people worse off than yourselves. And until next time, may your dreams never fade away.